Hello, my friends, and
welcome to the Million
another
Pound
episode
Mission
of the Million
Podcast.
Pound Mission Podcast.
I'm your host, Adam Shibley, the PhD,
previously heavy dude. This is episode number
I'm on a 1
141,
million pound
ending
mission.
body shame.
I've personally
JJ
lost over
Flizanes.
100
Now,
pounds.
I'm going to be straight up with you guys on
learned
this
from
one.
my own
I
transformation.
had a really hard time naming
my
this
hometown
episode
clients.
because JJ just delivered
35,000
so
pounds
much and
just 5
covered
years.
a ton of material.
Now
at one
I'm
point,
on a mission
I really felt like I was
to
having like a
produce
personal
1 million
therapy
pounds
/
results.
astrology session,
Delivering my
which I
best
loved.
weekly
And
tips,
it was awesome. So
motivation,
just trust
inspirational
me.
stories,
You already hit play. Just
transformation
keep listening
strategies,
because
so that you can gain
JJ
clarity
just
about
rocked
what
it.
you need
Now,
to do.
You know who she is?
to reach
JJ
your
is
goals.
an empowerment
Give you the
strategist
confidence
and the host of the
take
Fit to Love podcast
action.
show. She's the
perfect
director
time
of
to start
Visible
taking action
Fitness,
is
Amazon
right now.
best-selling
So
author
let's
of
do
Fit
this.
to Love, how to get physically, emotionally, and spiritually fit.
Hey everybody,
to
before we
attract
dive
the
into this
love of
episode,
your
I want
life.
to welcome on
And
a
she's
brand
the
new
author of
sponsorship
NAC,
partner,
Absolute
Ultra
Abs
Human.
Routines for
As
a
always,
fit
I
and firm
was a
core.
client of these
She's
guys
also named
first. I
best
chased them
personal
down. I
trainer
said,
in
I
Los
love your
Angeles by
stuff.
Elite
I'd
Traveler
love to get you
magazine.
involved as a sponsor.
And
So
JJ just
they agreed,
vividly reminds
and
us
here we are. Now the word
these
fitness products
is
are
not just about the state
amazing.
of
They have
one's
3
physical
products,
body,
and
but
they are the
also
best of the best. One is a
factors which
nootropic
determine
called
a
Tao,
person's
T-A-O.
overall
Some pronounce it
well-being.
Tao,
Like I said, you're
but
gonna
I'm
love
from
this
Indiana, so I pronounce
episode.
it Tao.
JJ and I
Just like I don't
discussed
pronounce
things
it
like
Tao.
how she first
And,
fell in love.
It's an
helping
amazing
people get
nootropic.
healthy.
I've been trying it.
We talk about the fitness
either
trends that
late
she's
morning
really
or even
pumped
midday
about right now.
as a little
We also
cognitive
talk about
boost,
the other side of that,
and you
and
feel
what she
the
feels
difference.
like
You feel
most
jittery,
people are doing
but you
wrong
feel very
right now
focused
with
and
their
dialed
fitness.
in. I love
We
it.
talk about her
They
concept
also have
of
a
invisible
keto plus MCT
fitness.
product, and
We
completely
also talk about
changed
how
my
somebody
opinion about
can move
exogenous
past
ketones. You guys have
body
to check this
shame
out if you want to avoid
start
keto
moving
flu
forward in
and have
a
a little better
positive direction.
workouts while you're
You
on
guys
a
are
ketogenic
going to
diet.
love this one
And they
too.
have a
Fire you
product
up
called
so
amino code.
many
It's the
takeaways
best. It is
and
the
action steps.
absolute
So
best
without
amino
further
acid
delay,
product I have
let's dive
ever
into episode number
used.
141.
It is amazing. My recovery
Ending
is off the
body
charts.
shame,
And I love this
JJ
stuff. So hopefully you can tell
Flizanes.
that I am all
right,
in.
JJ, welcome to the Million Pound Mission
ultrahuman.net.
Podcast. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here, Adam.
.net.
I'm fired up.
Hit
You
up
are
the
somebody
promo
that's
code
so well-rounded in
MPN20.
health and
20%
fitness.
off
You're
as a
all
Million
over the place.
Pound
You have
Mission
so
podcast
much
listener.
experience.
Now, after this
And
episode, I
wanted
want you to
kind of pick
listen
your
in
brain
as I'm going to give you the
just off the
details of
jump
my
here.
brand new Million
And I
Pound
wanna
Mission
know
bootcamp and how you
when
can get
and
involved.
where you really got
If you can't wait that
fired
long,
up
just go to
about health and fitness.
millionpoundmission.com.
What that moment
Make
was
sure
like
you get
when
on the
you're
wait
like,
list.
wow,
So
I
you
think
get
this is
first
what I wanna do with
dibs
my
on
life.
those
What was
roster
that
spots
like?
for the Million Pound Mission Bootcamp
Well,
launching in
that
July.
moment came as a result of a lot of other moments. I was actually in the entertainment industry. I did a lot of health and wellness on the side because I cared about my body, but it wasn't really a profession. And when I really thought about what am I going to do with my life, when you get out of school and you're an actor and you're a musical theater major and you're a dancer and you're a singer, I mean, you wait tables. So I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to go do something with my brain. So I thought I'm going to go learn how to, actually at the time I was working retail, which I really hated. And my manager, who also hated it, said, let's go get a job at the gym. We can get a free membership and we can go to the gym. And so I said, okay. Because at that point I had really strong muscular legs from dancing, but I had this skinny, scrawny upper body. And my boyfriend at the time was a gymnast. So he was perfectly well-rounded in his physique. Yep. And I thought, sure, I'll go to the gym and I'll learn how to do that. And here I am multitasking at the front desk because I'm very good at multitasking, and saw the trainers and thought, well, I want to do that. How do I get to do that? And so I asked, and I was given the ACE certification at the time. Here, take this test and you'll become a trainer. And I thought, okay. And then once I took the ACE test, my story that I tell on one of my podcasts, I've got like 7. One podcast is a video podcast called Smart Exercise, and it's video because it has to be, because you have to show people exercise. You can't use still shots. You can't talk about exercise. You have to show and talk. And so on my intro show, I talk about how a lot of trainers aren't certified. And a lot of trainers that aren't certified still don't know jack. Can I swear on your show?
Yes, swear away.
Okay. Know jack shit about the body. They learn how to program based on someone else's programming, but they don't know how to put the program together or why it was put together like that. So there's a lot of lack of science in this business. And I want people to know that's a scary thing, that you're going to somebody who's going to possibly put you through exercises that can ruin your joints. And at the same time, yes, you're going to build muscle, and yes, you might get stronger and you may get leaner and you may burn some fat, but you're going to wreck your joints. And if you wreck your joints, then you will have pain and you will stop exercising and you will backslide. And so to me, the structure has to be the first conversation. If you don't understand the science of the body, that's where you have to learn. And I came out as a, certified personal trainer and didn't know the science of the body. And I knew I didn't know the science of the body. And I thought to myself, this cannot be right. I'm a certified personal trainer and I don't know how to use one piece of that frickin' equipment on the gym floor. And that was like, that should scare people.
Yeah.
That choosing a trainer is a big deal. You know, I was interviewed on a radio show recently by a famous physician, psychologist, relationship psychologist on the East Coast. And I got it through my publicist, and we had this conversation, and she says to me, she set me up perfectly. You know, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I love how even today I still get on a roll where I can like really fine tune how to teach somebody or what's important or what to think about when they're exercising. And she said, you know, for those of us that don't have a trainer, and I literally said to myself, this is a perfect setup. I've never said this before. I said, why would you not want to hire a trainer, at least temporarily? And she goes, well, I never thought about it like that. So of course now she's a client. But I wanted to I wouldn't go try to learn how to fix my car. Why would you think that you would have to figure out how to work your body without someone who's studied it at least a little bit more than you? And it's not a plea to say you have to work with a trainer forever. Like, create a program. If you're self-motivated, cool. But my guess is you don't understand the science. Hire someone that knows to start making a program that makes sense for you, and then do that. So your previous question was, how did I know? How did I know that I wanted to become a trainer? Well, after I took that certification and knew nothing, and then walked into a gym as a certified personal trainer, and somewhere along that line, one of the other trainers, who was a physical therapist in training, said to me, he questioned me, Martin, if you're out there, I thank you 10 times over for pulling me aside very gently and saying, JJ, why did you choose those exercises for that client? And he wasn't judgmental. He was just literally like wanting to find out and uncover that I didn't know what I was doing. And then he put me on a machine and he said, you know, let's talk about this machine. And it was a row machine. It was a seated row. And he said, tell me what's going on. And I guessed right. But the fact that I did guess bothered me. I thought I should know what I'm doing here, even though this was not my chosen profession. This is a side gig that I'm making money and I care about it, but I like to do things the right way. I want to be good at what I'm doing. And so I looked at him, I said, where do I learn this? And that's when he sent me to NASM. And back then, NASM was run by a whole different group of people who are focused on a whole bunch of different things than we are now. So I'm going to credit my education to people like Tom Purvis and Lenny Parasino and a whole bunch of guys that were part of Apex at the time, back that many years ago. So I was introduced to science, and I'll tell you that as a musical theater major and very expression, emotionally creative based person, for a long time I didn't think I was smart. And when I started to learn science of the body, when I started to go into NASM, that is when I still hadn't decided I was going to do it full time or that it was going to take over my life, but it was at least 50% of my life because my ability to learn science and be good at it, I was like, wow, I get this because I can see it. I see the bones. I see the joints. I get physics. I get physiology. Physiology took a little longer, but only because all the drawings that they would do in the certifications would be black and white, and you'd have to sort of visualize the subsections of the muscle down to the actin-myosin bond. And I'm like, okay. And then finally the ATOM program came out, and it was a computer program that literally made it all different colors and showed you the chemical and electrical stimulation from action potential to muscle contraction. And then it became mechanical. And I was like, oh, I can memorize that because it's mechanical. And I just basically sort of woke up my left brain. I thought, oh, I actually am smart because I didn't feel smart. I wasn't that brainy, geeky kid in high school that got straight A's in math and science. And so all of a sudden now I'm learning science and I'm good at it. And then just sort of grew into my passion. And as you can hear and see, I'm still extremely passionate about the science of the body. And that's where I started. It's not where I've stayed, but it is a huge part of what I think the mission should be when it comes to talking about exercise for people, because you can exercise and lose weight and build muscle and increase your metabolism and burn fat and look great. And again, wreck your joints. I'm about preservation, do things smart, know what you're doing, and then you get all of it. You can preserve your joints and not wreck them, and you get all the other benefits.
All right. So I've made a lot of notes there. There's a few key points I want to circle back around to, but since we just ended on that point of preserving our joints, where do you see the average person going wrong? Whether they're with a personal trainer, whether or not they're going on a fitness adventure, what are they really screwing up and how are they screwing it up?
Okay, 2 points. One would be the lack of neurological engagement. So they're not actually, mind-body connection is not there. I actually just came from working with a client this morning, and it was really interesting. She did 2 sets of bicep curls. And the first set of bicep curls, we didn't talk, and I was having her really focus on thinking about where she was pulling from. So she's not using her hands. She's not gripping the weight. She's actually down here actually thinking about the attachment and thinking about pulling from there. And she probably only did maybe 15 or 20 reps, and then she failed. Second set, she's telling me a story about something that happened yesterday, and she must have gone on for 30 or 40 reps. And it was, and I wanted to point that out to her, because I thought, all right, this is interesting, because this shows you when you're connected and when your brain is in that muscle and those motor patterns are being fired and most of those fibers are actually being engaged, you get overloaded faster because you're utilizing the right muscles. But when you're disconnected in your brain, she must have done like 2 minutes worth of them. She just kept going. And I was like, okay, obviously she didn't fail, but because she was disconnected. So neurological involvement is huge. And so many trainers and so many people have no idea. And it's something I can't really teach you other than showing to you, which is why I had to do a video podcast. So that's number one. Number two, and it goes with the first one, is that most people don't know what they're doing. What am I supposed to be concentrating on? What am I focusing on? Most people are concentrating on the action. Oh, a bicep curl. I'm supposed to move this weight towards my shoulder. No, it has nothing to do with the weight of your shoulder. It has to do with the muscle between your elbow and your shoulder. So if you don't know where you're pulling from and where you're pulling to, you do not know what you're doing in that exercise. And that's another one of those like clarifying moments I had right before my event in January. I was working with a new client, and I was trying to also educate her to do it on her own. And I said, look, here's the 2 questions you ask yourself. Where am I pulling from, and where am I pulling to? And if you don't know that, then you shouldn't be doing the exercise. So those 2 parts, and again, it is neurological involvement, but it's awareness, it's body awareness, it's exercise awareness. So many times people are just wanting to do motions. Like they think of a pull-up as pulling your chin over the bar. It has nothing to do with your chin. Or in a bicep curl with, like, say, a bar, which I don't recommend, but people use bars, right? And they think, oh, I have to get the bar from down here to up here. And it's like,
right.
Yet there's very little flexion in the elbow going on, right? There's a lot of bending in the knees and the back when the weight gets heavier, and we're missing the bicep piece. So I think those would be the 2 points that I think most people are missing when it comes to both efficiency and effectiveness as well as safety.
Yeah, well, those 3 things you just mentioned, that's the deal. And people just show up at the gym, they go through the motions, they buy their year membership, they put in their time, and then they aren't safe, they aren't efficient, they aren't effective, and they don't get any results. And they're like, well, that didn't work for me. And that's, the issue with people give up on fitness, and then they say, oh, they just kind of shut that door and say, maybe I'm just like this. It doesn't work for me. But other people do. We have a lot of positivity around fitness. I feel like now compared to even 10 years ago, like fitness is becoming more popular, and even like in the Midwestern states where I live, where we tend to be more of the on the bottom of the fit list when it comes to ranking the chart there. Indiana's always like bottom 5. So I guess I'm in a good market, but I don't really want to be in a good market. I'm trying to change that. But as far as trends in the industry right now, what are you kind of excited about? Like, this is a positive thing that's happening, and you're seeing that uptick in that area. What would that be for you?
Well, I hope it's a little bit of what I'm doing, which is to add the mind, body, soul piece, because, we can talk about weight loss and exercise as one category, and there's definitely plenty to talk about and plenty to uncover and really fine tune and know about and learn about. I mean, science you don't learn in a weekend, which is what most personal training certifications are. Science is a lifelong thing, right? And not to mention that there are several sciences. We're talking about physics. You know how many times I've watched someone do some stupid exercise that they're not even working what they think they're working, like a row with dumbbells. Okay. Like that was done by a physician and a doctor in a class about breast cancer rehab. And I looked at them and thought, wow, you don't know physics. Gravity pulls down. That weight is not resisting your retraction of your back when you're in a seated position. Like they don't go together. So physics is like huge, number one. And then of course there's all the other sciences. So in terms of trends, maybe getting smarter about exercise is one of them, but really I'm hoping that, and I'm that weird. I don't really consider myself part of the industry because I hate half of the shame that goes into the industry, which is what I've always sort of like, I'm aware of the fitness piece, obviously. and the nutrition piece, but I don't get into like the latest, greatest craze of whatever, because to me, it can all be broken down in the same science. And like I look at CrossFit and I think, yeah, it has benefits. It's high intensity interval training, but half the exercises are crap and they're going to wreck your joints. Or I look at, some of the yoga things. Yoga is great, can be great, but not everybody bends the same. People are going to get injured the same in yoga as they do in CrossFit if you're forcing a position your body doesn't do naturally. So I don't really get into like the crazes or the newest, latest, greatest, whatever, because again, I also feel like a lot of people resist fitness because of the shame component, which is why I wrote my kind of first book, Fit to Love, because it was about that energy going into exercise. The reason why people don't like exercising is because they keep anchoring in how much they don't like themselves. And most of us don't want to feel that way. So if you're exercising and you're beating yourself up and shaming yourself while you're doing it, or you're feeling like it's punishment, you're not going to want to do it. But that's not the only option. The other option is to be able to like have some future visioning and forward thinking and see what happens to my body if I don't take care of it. And then you get to see what happens. Just look around at anybody 10, 20, 30 years older than you, and you go, oh, that person didn't take care of themselves. Do I want to be that in 10 or 30 years? And then you get to say, wow, I'm going to do this because I care about my body, because I care about my future. If you're someone who saves money or invests money, it's the same idea. Your body will break down over time biologically if you don't do certain things to keep it up. And your body can be better at 50 than it was at 20. It just depends on how much time and energy, effort, and awareness you have about what you need to do. So when it comes to the fitness industry trends, part of me doesn't really know, because I don't really know what everyone's talking about, because I don't go to the gym anymore. I'm not in the gym scene. I'm on the outside of it, really wanting to push that mind, body, soul idea of, why is it that you want to work out in the first place? Most people just want to lose weight. And that can be fine, but why? If your why isn't really a long-term strategy of self-love and self-care, then you're doing it momentarily to feel better about yourself, to get love from somebody else, to feel acceptance. But my belief is you have to accept yourself where you are first. I'm not saying don't lose weight. I'm just saying don't do it because you're trying to make someone else treat you differently, or for you to finally like yourself enough to say, I'm worth taking care of myself, and I'm worth changing my diet and paying attention to my body and adding exercise and adding these things in. But it has to be wrapped up in a true, I think, honest way of loving yourself. And so every time you do it, you feel good about yourself, not it's anchoring in that you're fat and you can't fit in your clothes and you're ugly and no one loves you. Like, that's just terrible.
So what you just said brought to mind a couple of people that I've actually worked with, and I'd be interested in your opinion on this situation. I have seen a situation occur where people set large weight loss goals, and they're in the morbidly obese category of like, we need to lose weight. And one of their goals is to be able to be healthy, but they want to find love, and they want to get married and start a family and be able to be in a healthy position to do that. And I've helped a couple of people do this where they accomplish that. They lose over 100 pounds. They are in a healthy state, but then they find love, they get married, and then it all goes back on. It's kind of like you said, it wasn't so much about them and being healthy. It was more about, I don't know. It's hard to really connect what it was about, but it seemed like that why wasn't dialed in all the way. So what's like, if somebody that you're working with has that sort of situation going on, how are you coaching them through that so that they don't let their guard down once they achieve that goal of finding their life partner, getting married, and then letting things slip back? How would you coach that person?
Well, one of the big benefits of my relationship has been to all the contrast over the years and all the things that I've learned. And one of the things that I've really learned is about addiction. And for people who are very overweight, your addiction is food. And honestly, a lot of people's addiction is food. It doesn't matter how much overweight or underweight you might be. A lot of people, especially for bulimics and anorexics, right? Food, and that it's still your addiction. But when we have an addiction, and people think of addiction only as like drugs and alcohol and things that are really dangerous or a substance, food is absolutely one of the biggest addictions we have. And it goes back to numbing what we're feeling. So what happened when someone decides to focus so intently on losing weight to get another person, we're filling the hole. The hole is, I don't love myself. really, at the end of the day. So if I do this, I'm going to find love. And maybe someone can keep that up for a long time, because a lot of us have good willpower. And then you get that love, and then it takes the place of you learning how to be with your own feelings. What is it that you're running away from? If you don't establish a healthy relationship with your feelings and your emotions, understanding how to process things, how I'm also very different, and I don't know anyone else doing this. I'm sure there has to be, but I don't keep up to date with like what everybody else is doing, because I just do what I do, and I go, it works. And if I'm interested in it, I like it. I do astrology. And I do astrology with my clients, because everyone thinks differently. Everyone interprets differently. Everyone sees the world differently. Everyone responds to different energies differently. And emotions are in that. Like if you have someone who is super emotional, very sensitive, and just has an overwhelming sense of their feelings, and they just don't know what to do with that, then they're always, without learning how to process that, without learning how to heal some of those wounds that keep coming up and getting triggered, then we're always just finding compensation through food or through another person or through technology or through shopping or through drugs or alcohol. So it's the addiction that's the question. What is it that I'm unwilling to feel? Why can't I sit with my feelings? What is it that I'm running from? And what is it that I'm replacing? So that person then, or those people, and it happens, I know, they replaced the self-love and self-care with getting love from somebody else. And it's, when you're in the beginning of a relationship, that happens. It's easy to do. So you can, everything goes out the window because you're feeling so elated with new feelings. And then, you kind of create some bad habits, but you should be able to come back to your center, which is hopefully a strong center of I love and respect myself. And at the end of the day, I'm responsible for how I feel. I'm the one who has to live with me forever. I'm in my body and I'm responsible for that. And what do I do about that? And even today, like I thought we were doing a video podcast. So I put on this shirt that I've worn like twice. I did it in a boxing video that I have, boxing and kickboxing. And I was telling somebody that I was like, I decided to wear this shirt today. And he said, well, why? Well, what's the problem? And I was like, well, it kind of hugs me in all the right places, but sometimes I'm not always feeling like all the right places are things I want to share with people. And he was like, oh, you're beautiful. I'm like, I know that's not, but I have to feel good about myself too. And it comes back to, again, it's that internal work. There's like two ways I think to handle, and they're both legitimate and they're both important, but there's the inside out and the outside in, right? And I think you have to address both of them for long-term sustainable weight management, if you will. I'm not going to say weight loss, but weight management, because we're all going to fluctuate up and down. Life happens. Stuff happens. Your schedule changes, your body changes, your life changes. So then, but coming back to a center of where you feel stable and your self-talk is in alignment with what you want long-term, you have a good sense of your priorities, you know how to handle your emotions, you know your body, you're listening to your body, you're just taking care of yourself. That's something that has to be taught over the course of time. But I think it's the addiction conversation and the what is it you're trying to avoid by, even people are addicted to exercise. People are addicted to exercise. They don't want to deal with themselves, so they go exercise. So it's not like just somebody exercises, therefore it's healthy. No. Or someone has lost a lot of weight and that's healthy. Not necessarily. Not if you're doing it because, again, you don't like yourself or you're running away from something, or you've just focused so heavily on your body and you're so concerned about how you look. Like bodybuilders are sorry, everybody who's listening to this as a bodybuilder, but when you're competing, bodybuilders are as not well in their head as anorexics. It's the same thing in opposite, one just looks better, one looks healthier, but you're as obsessed with what you look like as someone who is throwing up and binging.
So how do we control that obsession? If we do, how do we take a step back from that? How do we realize, what's the alarm or the trigger that we can set up and be like, okay, obviously if friends chime in and things like that, people step in and say, hey, we're going off the deep end a little bit, or a coach. But what could be a mental kind of checklist to make sure that we don't go there, and then we can work our way back to that happy place where we're happy, we're healthy, and we're moving forward in a positive direction?
Well, it's going to be different, obviously, case by case situation, right? Sometimes I feel like people who are really, really caring about what other people, like the ones who are obsessed with what they look like, care what other people think. And that is, again, that's fleeting, because you can't control what other people think of you. And so you do a competition and you win. So what happens next time when you do a competition and you don't win? Do you feel bad about yourself? Like, because someone didn't judge you as having the best physique in that competition, do you all of a sudden feel sad and bad? Like, that's not healthy. Asking for outside approval ultimately is never going to be healthy. Having validation here and there about certain things definitely can help you, but you have to be the one that approves of you first. And it's probably the hardest work that we do. do, which is why I said I'm not really in the fitness industry, because I feel like the fitness industry just promotes everyone losing weight and doing fad diets and being as skinny as you can or as buff as you can without like checking in with how healthy are you? How many good looking people are freaking miserable and depressed? A ton of them. Just because someone is like, looks like they look good on the outside doesn't mean they're happy on the inside, and vice versa. Just because someone has a few extra pounds on them doesn't mean that they're unhappy. They could be perfectly happy. You know, it's that balance of, what do I think about me? What do I want? And how can I accept myself, who I am as I am? And if I want to lose a few pounds and I want to build some muscle, great. But it's not coming from a place of, because if I don't, no one will love me, or I'm going to talk bad about myself. You know, so for each individual person, it's going to be a different path of that self-exploration. But I think it's an important one to address in the fitness industry, because that's why the fitness industry makes so much money, because people yo-yo back and forth all the time because it's temporary. It's short-lived. They call it diets. And a diet to anyone means it's temporary. It means, oh, I'm going to do this detox or this diet. I'm going to lose a lot of weight really fast. And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing before. And then, of course, what happens is you gain the weight back. It doesn't make any sense. You can't think short term. But in order to think long term, we have to integrate other aspects. We can't ignore the emotional piece. We can't ignore the spiritual piece. We can't ignore the hormonal piece. We can't, and how you feel about yourself and the psychological, the way you talk to yourself. That to me is the foundation of keeping the habits and the patterns you establish when you want to be on a health program.
So one of the things you mentioned that I want to dive a little bit deeper on. Well, you didn't really mention it, but indirectly you talked about weight loss and the industry really pushing weight loss, and like that's the big thing. I've actually noticed a little bit of a different trend happening. That somebody actually brought this to my attention. They were a guest on my show, and they were another health and fitness podcaster, and they said, Adam, weight loss is dead. Strong is the new thing. Strong is the new focus. And I'm totally down with that. I think that's cool, especially with females. Like, I think that trend of females, like, I'm so excited that my 3-year-old daughter will not know what a boy push-up and a girl push-up is. She just does push-ups. You know what I'm saying? And she's going to do pull-ups, and she's going to lift weights and do deadlifts and like cool things like that. And I think that's cool. But one thing that I'm starting to notice is that it brings up a difficult conversation, because I don't want to be the guy that's like, you should be skinny and you know, all that. Like, that's not who I am. But I see people that are almost just kind of putting a blindfold on, where they're not healthy. All right. They're not at, I don't even want to say a healthy weight, but if they lost 50 or 60 pounds, they would be in a much better health position. You know what I'm saying? But they're like, well, I'm focusing on getting strong. And like, it's a hard conversation to navigate, where, it's like they say, well, weight loss isn't my thing. I'm just being me. I'm being healthy, which is good. But their diet is terrible, and their heart condition is terrible. And so what's your opinion on how to navigate that situation when somebody's almost in denial, where they're just kind of in the trend of, I got to get strong, and I am doing good things for my body, but they're ignoring such a large part of it with the nutrition and really with too high of a body fat percentage to be healthy?
It's a great question that I haven't really had to tackle, but how I would handle it right now. And I got a call about working with a young boy. I think he's maybe 8 or 11, and he's an athlete and he doesn't want to eat very well, and his mother wants him to eat better. So I'm trying to figure out how to approach this. I also know his sign. By the way, what's your birthday?
August 26, 1980.
Virgo. So this child is the same birthday as my husband. And so I know the psychology going in right away. Yeah. And I told her very, very seriously, I said, okay, we cannot approach this from you need to do this way. It's not going to work. We have to go around it. It has to be his decision. And so so the same thing for you. It's about leading questions. And when you can connect that, in order for the muscle to build, for us to have the appropriate nutrients in our bodies, antioxidants, to make sure that we aren't breaking down tissue, right? When you can talk about food and nutrition in a way that helps support them getting stronger, then it becomes a bigger priority versus let me scare you into the heart disease and blah, blah, blah. If you want to be stronger, you ask the leading question. So, okay, you're getting stronger. So are you doing A, B, C, and D? And they'll say, no. And then you go, okay, well, so when you do this, and then you explain what that does. Like I was telling this woman that, remember back when there was Popeye, people ate more spinach because Popeye connected spinach with getting stronger. So of course, boys wanted to eat spinach to get stronger. You get more muscles when you eat spinach, right? It's that kind of association. So you can take food and nutrition and supplements and anything, sleep, hormones. I mean, you can take the whole gamut and start to connect it in a different way that's not so directly about a should. And that's what I think people rebel against. It's like, the resistance people have is completely emotional because they haven't bought into, again, that connection of why I'd want to do this. You know, I talk about elimination diets. I help people do them. What I eat is very much always an elimination diet. But it takes you a little while to get there. I mean, I was a cheeseaholic for a long time. I'd buy $20 worth of gourmet cheese a week. I loved my cheese and wine. Now, when I went gluten-free, that was really easy. Actually, I don't know why. I mean, I lost 6 pounds in 10 days and went, there's something to this. So I stayed gluten-free, and I have for almost 10 years. But the dairy thing, and I have like symptoms, but I just didn't want to. I loved cheese. So it's not like I don't understand that crossing that line of deciding to change your lifestyle and get rid of something that really isn't good for you, and your body's showing you that. Like I did a blood test for an allergy. I had no allergies, but yet every night before I went to bed, I'd be blowing my nose and I'd be clearing my throat in the morning, and I'm like, this is probably dairy. And it took me another 1.5 to 2 years after going gluten-free to try replacing my dairy with non-dairy substitutes. And then after about a week or two, when I was fine and the cravings went away and I liked what I was eating, I thought, this isn't that hard. And so now I'm like 98% dairy-free. I have it sometimes, but I'm dairy-free now. But it took me a while because I loved the cheese. It was such a treat. It was so fun. So the resistance, we can't just go straight into the should with the resistance because people just go, nope, I'm holding my ground. And especially if there's someone like a Virgo or a Taurus. Now, Virgos, you guys are about the right way. Like there's a right way to do something. It has to be perfect. This is how it looks. It has to be in this order. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we have to do it in this order. If he's a Taurus or a Capricorn, there's going to be a bull and line in the sand. Like, nope, I am not giving that up. So again, working with someone's personality and their astrology and what's important to them and being able to, influence them in different ways would be my approach.
You made me feel like I'm kind of exposed up here now that you know my astrology. I'm like, oh crap. She probably knows the next question. This is pointless. One of the things that just kind of, as I investigated through all your information, one of the things I was really just kind of keyed on was your concept of invisible fitness. And you have been talking about, you've been touching on that, but I want you to specifically define what you mean by invisible fitness. And it really lines up with the way I like to coach. I do a lot of talking about what I call strategic thinking and thinking about your body just like you would a business and planning ahead and thinking about things as a whole, not just, the workout. So what is invisible fitness and how are you implementing that into helping so many people?
When I moved to California and I started my business, I actually licensed a brand from another company in New York. And it very quickly became clearly that it wasn't the right brand name for me. And it didn't incorporate sort of the level of education and the specificity of the body that I wanted to. And so at that point, it was around 2003 and 4, that I decided to rebrand. And when I worked with Jack Barnard, the best branding person alive, it was really dialed into the joints at the time. But how perfect it's been is it's allowed me the umbrella to grow in every other way because everything's invisible. It's the point was, how do I differentiate me and the trainers that work for me to other trainers? And it was about the joints and that what you can't see is more important than what you can, and that the invisible creates the visible, right? So going back to those joints, in order to do an exercise, first of all, physiology is invisible. You can't see it. I want to look at, like my bicep. If I want my bicep to be bigger, I have to do things with physics and physiology, and resistance that are all invisible. You can't see it, but that is what creates what you see on the outside. So that is how Invisible Fitness started. It was literally about the joints and the specificity of the science about the body and all of the different things that go into creating what you see on the outside. And then it's very, very beautifully been able to hold and let me grow into everything from digestion to sensitivities to hormones. I work in a medical clinic with a functional medicine doctor and a dietitian, and I know a ton about hormones. I talked about it in my book. So I look at people's blood work all the time. I don't tell them I tell them to go get something from someone else. I can't prescribe things, but I can look at a panel of blood work, and I talk about it in my newest book. So the endocrine system is huge too, and neurotransmitters, your chemistry, your brain chemistry is huge, and that's all invisible. You can't see any of that. So it's really allowed me to grow. And then, of course, the most important piece, which is the psychological, emotional, and spiritual piece.
So let's dive more into that, because I believe that's the most important part as well. You mentioned having a why. You mentioned, having the goals, but the emotional component. I feel like that's where that's a huge danger zone for people, and whether it's just that body image issue or the relationship type issues that we talked about, wanting it to achieve that relationship instead of achieving health. So where are the biggest messy areas or danger zones that you see in that mental component and the mental and emotional situations that are popping up, and you're like, okay, we got to fix this first? What types of things are you seeing?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems is the level of consciousness around this area of fitness and weight loss. People really still believe that it's really just about calories in and calories out and how many times I'm getting on the treadmill or going to the gym. And that's it. I worked with a whole bunch of women on a virtual program that I did a couple years ago, and they were not my clients. They came through another program, and I was sort of the leader, so like a Biggest Loser, if you will, virtually. And I did Skype group calls with them, and I led them through a very, very different experience. They all thought they were going to be coming onto this Biggest Loser type program, and they were going to count calories, and they were going to send me food logs, and they were going to track their exercise, and they were going to be asked every day how much they weighed and if they lost any weight. I never asked them once about weight loss. Wow. And I started in on the food elimination from the beginning, and I slowly took them through a process which uncovered that, because some of them said, some of them who've been on programs for 20 years, 20 different, 20 years yo-yoing weight loss stuff. And if you would have asked them at the beginning of the program, what are your emotional issues with weight loss? They'd say, I don't have any emotional issues with weight loss. Like, what are you talking about? I'm just lazy, or I just fall off the wagon, or I just like food. And then, but then after however many, I think it was 12 weeks, after the 12 weeks, they were like, holy crap, I have issues. Like, I have some things that I'm like not even aware of. And it's uncovering what that is for you. And, and it's not popular. And it's uncomfortable, which is why it's so much easier just to join a gym or go do a detox or do a weight loss program, because it doesn't actually go any deeper than, your conscious mind. So the emotional piece is the harder piece. But here's the thing. It's where you can get over the hump and you actually change your life. You change your life long term. You are actually a different person because you have healed some of these wounds, and you understand why you've chosen to numb yourself with food for 20 years. It can actually really break you free of the patterns that have kept you in that circle and that cycle of because then you beat yourself up. You go, oh, why can't I? Why isn't this working for me? Why can't I stick with this? Why do I always fall down and do this? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. You're just not going to ever get your answers when you're looking at calories and how many times you're working out a week. Right. Yeah. People, what I found a lot of times is that they start to feel that they're getting outside their comfort zone. That's what's actually happening. That's not what they're like, well, I am now outside my comfort zone and I will freak out. The freak out happens, but as I'm coaching people along, I see that we're just getting outside of our comfort zone. We're starting to tap into that emotional component, and it freaks people out and they suck back in. So that's something, as a coach, that we're always going to be out there trying to combat. So what would you do in that situation where you start to see, like, how are you bringing people along and kind of creating that journey where we're talking about the mental stuff? You may see them, obviously with your use of astrology and using, that insider information on how their psyche operates, that has to be helpful. But how do you get somebody that you notice them, okay, they're starting to pull back, I'm starting to lose them a little bit. Where do you go with that person? Right. The astrology absolutely helps. To me, I've always done it just for my own information. I now started offering like sessions of where I'll do like an astrological health assessment. That's cool. Because an astrological relationship assessment. I thought I need to like charge for this for people that are just interested in that integration. Again, if you're my client, I do it anyway because I have to. I have to know how you think, what's important to you, how you tick, how you view the world, sometimes what your triggers are, in order for me to know how to approach you. Because again, everyone's not going to hear the same information the same way. And so when it comes to people that pull back, again, if I have somebody that I'm working with, and I've learned this the hard way, like let's say, for instance, someone that has a Virgo moon, not a Virgo rising, you guys are very, you do the right things. When you're Virgo sun, you're like, I have to be perfect. You put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect. And sometimes it's not okay not to be perfect, but the whole perfectionistic thing, right? At least if I tell you what to do, I know you'll do it, right? It may not be you may not like it, but you'll do it because you've signed up for it. But someone that's got a Virgo moon, so that's how you deal with emotions. I've learned the hard way that most of you don't change unless something bad happens to you. And there's no amount of rationale I can tell you. You will continue doing the habits and patterns that do not serve you until you either have a heart attack, you break something, you have cancer. Sorry, that's what I've been learning. It's just one of the, right? So if I know that about a person, then all I can do is try to manipulate some of those top level thoughts and ideas and get them structure and get them accountability, change their schedule. It's a longer process. But if we've got somebody who, like me, has a Sag moon, and I tell you the why I want you to do something, and you buy into the why, you'll do it tomorrow. So it is that half psychological, half astrological piece of how do you move someone along? Well, you really have to understand how they think in order to figure out what the right piece of information is for them. It's a different, if they're right-brained or left-brained. I have tons of people who are very right-brained. They're ADD. They are not going to ever write anything down. They're never going to track anything. And giving them a grocery list and a food list of things for them to eat is overwhelming. So putting them on a program where they buy their food and they get it delivered and they don't have to think about anything makes them feel free and happy and stable, right? But it might be more expensive. But that's what's going to work for them because they don't have to think about it. And you can't train somebody who's ADD and right-brained to actually be linear. That's just, again, not within their realm of comfort or even potential possibility. So that's where the specificity of personal programming, I think, has to take really like a much deeper dive in order to be able to come up with that. So I've got all kinds of tactics. It just depends on who you are in terms of reeling people back or appealing to what's important to them. And I think also it's important to remember, for you and for me, at the end of the day, I've been doing this for a long time too. And we can only provide what we can provide. It's the person has to take responsibility for their stuff too. And sometimes they're just not willing to do that. And that has to be okay. And it has to be okay that they backslide. It has to be okay that they don't listen. It has to be okay. It's not about a reflection of us in the industry as if we're not doing our job. If you're giving them good information and they're not following through, yes, because I have clients like that where I've literally tried. I've gone around the wheel of different ways I can appeal to you. I have tried 15 different ways to get you to do something and you're still not. And those are the Virgo moons. I'm like, okay, I give up. I give up. I can't change you. And you're just going to have a heart attack. And that's what's going to happen and that's okay. And I have now made peace with that. So I'm ready for if and when that happens. And I'll be here to help you when it's over.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is an issue that I really struggle with is when you can't reach somebody or even worse, you've reached them and then they backslide hard and then it's just like they go MIA and they don't even want to talk. And that's something that really it breaks my heart. And I feel so responsible for that person. So it's nice to hear somebody in your position just kind of saying it's okay that, they have to come to play as well and do their part of the job. But, man, it's tough. It's tough. So have you always been that way or did it take you a while?
Oh, no. It took me. Yeah, no, it took me a long time. I think anyone in a service-based business, doesn't matter if you're a massage therapist, a physical trainer, a hairstylist, when your clients don't listen to you, a lot of us take it personally. We think it's about us. We didn't do they're disrespecting us. We're not smart enough. It's actually really all about our insecurities. And I think owning your own business and if you're on a self-development journey, at some point you realize it's not about you. It's about them. And being able to tell the difference between those two things. And when it comes to, energetically, it's funny. I had one of the clients I'm talking about, the Virgo moon, who's going to have a heart attack. He has a son, and I've been working with this guy for 10 years, and he's one of my biggest fans. He's like my father. We love each other dearly. But his son started training with me. And none of them are ever going to listen to the show, so I'm not even worried about saying it. I'm not going to mention their names, but I started working with his son. It took a long time, but he is much younger, which honestly, I love millennials. So I was thinking, oh, great. Like I'm going to get his son. He's younger. He's probably a little bit more dialed in. Holy shit. This dude didn't even fill out my paperwork. And I was like, what is that about? I have 3 pages that I give to somebody. He walks in the door and he gives me the middle page. And I said, where are the other 2 pages? And he's like, oh, I didn't think you need those. And I'm like, well, let's see. The first page has your goals on it. And he says, oh, I don't have any goals. I'm like, then what are we doing here? Like, it was so much work. And you have to know where people, like, I was so dumbfounded. I've never, ever in my career ever had someone not fill out my fucking paperwork. Like, seriously, what? And I had, like, because I've never been with someone so paranoid. He's paranoid. He didn't want me to have his contact information and his address. And I'm like, what? I've been training your dad for 10 years. I'm like family. But I'm like, forget it. So I realized that it was too much work to work with this guy. I mean, he still has sessions. If he calls me, cool. But you have to be able to assess when it's someone else's crap and when you've moved on. I've grown to the point where I don't want to deal with people like him. If you're just looking for someone to be accountable to, who you just want to track your calories and you're not willing to do the emotional work, you are not right for me. And I am not right for you. So knowing who you are and who you want to work with and who your ideal client is important for you too, because you are going to fail miserably with people who aren't ready for you and who aren't ready for what you have.
So I'm sure you have, what does it look like when you fire a client? Like how does that conversation go? Or what's the mental checklist that you go through? Like, okay, this person is out for sure.
I had a semi-famous client, who was training with me for a while and I love him dearly and we're still friends. But when we were training, he would go on set in different locations and he would work with different trainers temporarily while he was there. And at one point he came back and he told me he was boxing with weights. And I looked at him dead straight in the face and I was like, I'm sorry, what? You were boxing with weights? He's like, yeah. So I think I might have yelled at him then, but then I got in the car and I called her back and I said, look, I love you. I think you're great. I said, but the fact that you have been training with me for a while and then you went and you picked up weights, which again in physics pulled down, and boxing is a horizontal plane motion, and you're going to wreck your shoulders. And so which tells me you're not listening to me and you might not respect me and you might not think, and maybe it's because I'm a girl and maybe because I'm not a bodybuilder in competitions, maybe you don't think I know what I'm talking about. I go, and that's okay. So if we need to part ways, that's totally cool. I want people who actually respect what I say because I'm really trying to help you. I don't want you to wreck your shoulders. That's why I try to educate you about what we're doing. He called me back and went, no. Okay, I'm fine. It's fine. I won't do it again. But, so I tried to fire him and then he didn't go at that time. But when it comes to like people who like this other person I'm talking about, I have not been on top of him to get back on the schedule. He sees me every week at the office, training his dad and everybody else at the office. So, when he's ready, he'll step up. He knows who I am. He knows he may or may not be interested and they'll sit there. So in terms of, I would finish a pack with a client. In fact, I had another somewhat famous client. And when we got to the end of it, we parted ways because I said, she was a Virgo, because you want me to dedicate myself to you for a very long period of time before you're willing to give back to me. At that time, we were doing a bit of a trade as well as money. Like she was paying me, but at a much reduced rate because she had TV time and so she was like going to bring me on her show and she was going to help me out in different ways, but she wasn't throwing me a bone. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. I'm going to show up for 3 months until you get results and then you're going to help me? No, I've given you like a third of the price for what I charge in order for you to help me now. So that was, so we parted ways. But I think, just simply saying that, I'm not a fit for you, just like dating. I think you're really cool. I wish you the best. You're a great person, but I don't know that I'm the right fit for you.
Yeah. Man, yeah, that's it's never a fun conversation. I've had to have that a couple of times, and it's how you handle it is the key, and as in all difficult, crucial conversations. Great book, by the way, Crucial Conversations. You guys should check it out. So JJ, this has been unbelievable. This has gone by so fast. I want to be respectful of your time. I could probably sit and fire away for another 45 minutes easily because you're so interesting. But I want to make sure that my audience knows what you have going on, how they can plug into your info, your podcast, your books. I will put links all across the Northern Hemisphere. My blog, I'll send each podcast listener a letter individually with all your links on it. But I want to make sure they can connect with you because you are full of great resources, great tools. So what are some of those things they can plug into and how can they follow you and your story?
JJFlizanes.com is the best place to go. It's JJFlizanes.com. I've got a free tools and resources section. There's about 6 different things there that you can get for free, from anywhere from a 30-day manifestation challenge, which uses the law of attraction to actually dial in and focus every day to increasing your frequency and vibration to attract the things that you want, from health and fitness and wellness to relationships and money. And then I've also got an optimizing your health and wellness checklist. So all the things that I would consider a balanced program every day and every week of your life. It's just a checklist, so you can download it and see how you're doing in terms of everywhere from sleep, all the things that I've covered and more. And then there's some other fun things on there. So there's a couple quizzes about weight loss resistance, but I think the checklist and the manifestation challenge are probably the best 2 free gifts. If you're someone who really wants to dive deeper and you're willing to take some time to go inward and peel back the onion for a little while, you need to do it, in my opinion, in a workshop or retreat situation. Going to therapy is great if you have a good therapist and you're doing the right kinds of therapy. I'm very knowledgeable and skilled in telling you what the right therapies are. I've done a bunch of them, and some of them don't work, and some of them last way too long and you get no changes. So I'm about really diving into that piece, and we do it at my live events. And my next live event is in September. It's called The Next Big Step. And the next event after that is in January, the 10th through the 13th. They're both in Los Angeles. But January 10th to the 13th is called Releasing What Weighs You Down. And the Releasing What Weighs You Down January event is more of the beginning of the year detox. And it's literally the mind, body, soul detox of, I want to do this year differently. What do I need to let go of that I carry with me that stops me from moving further? Now, the September event, The Next Big Step, that's about knowing that you're meant for more in any way, in any aspect of your life, and knowing that I just don't know how to get there, and somehow I haven't allowed myself the opportunity to even try. So if you want to break through whatever that ceiling is for you in any area of your life, and we're going to deal with money too at the next big event. So we're going to deal with money. We're going to deal with food and health. Obviously, we're going to deal with emotions and baggage that you're carrying and relationships. And so if you want to, really go inward and give yourself the space and time to uncover and really let go of and break through to that next level in any area of these that I just mentioned, the next big step. And you can find all that information on jjflizanes.com. It's under events, but that's September 20th through the 23rd in Los Angeles.
Amazing. And you guys, I want you to check out JJ's stuff. It is really, really high level. She's been doing this at a high level for a long time, and it's definitely worth a peek. So, JJ, I've got one last question for you that I want to wrap up on. I love to give my audience an action step, an action point. And let's say that somebody listening has maybe recently come to the realization that they're having some body image issues, some self-love issues, and they're ready to change that. And they're just not sure how. If you could sit that person down, look them in the eye, and have a conversation, what would be 1 or 2 first steps that you would say, here's where to start that journey?
So I think some kind of meditation that really puts you in your body would be the place to start. And I have some of those actually that you can get on my site, but or you can do it yourself. It doesn't have to be guided. You can just really just check in with yourself. You could take 5 minutes in the morning. In fact, I just told a client this last night. She said, she's a Virgo. There's a Virgo theme going on. She's a Virgo, and she said, knowing me and knowing my Virgo-ness, what do you think? I have all these things I need to do. All these, from what I'm eating to exercising to sleeping to hormone stuff to fun to journaling to future visioning, all the stuff I have to do. And what do you think I should concentrate on? And I gave her 2 choices. And she liked the first choice, which was my first gut instinct. And so that is, everyone, that every day you take 5 or 10 minutes and you can hold the list in your hands and you can think about, go inward and just check in with your body. Breathe through your body. Take a mental visualization from either your toes up to your head or from your head down to your toes. Literally scan your body. You need to get in your body. You need to be aware of all your muscles, all your bones, all your nerve endings, all your skin, your nails, your hair, your teeth. Get in your body. Once you're in your body, ask it, what do I need to focus on today? What is the most important thing that I need to focus on today? And allow your body to tell you what it needs. And it may be 2 or 3 things on the list, but rather than mentally trying to decide or should yourself, check in. You have to start with respecting the body that's there, that's going to tell you what it needs. It's going to feel good. It's going to feel comfortable. So that would be my recommendation, especially for those of you A-type personalities who are earth signs. Then rather than don't should yourself, don't should yourself on all the different things you have to stress yourself out about today. Go inward, sit with yourself, respect your body, that it's telling you things, and listen to it. That would be the first thing I would say.
I love it. Don't should yourself. That might be an episode title that we just created there. Either that or how to deal with Virgos. It'll be either one. It'll be either
well,
one.
Well, Virgos aren't the only ones shitting themselves, so don't worry. Should is actually a really violent word. I did a whole show on should, actually, about the stop shitting on yourself. Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote Nonviolent Communication, it's a whole big movement. I work with it. I use it in all my trainings. And he said should is one of the most violent words we use because it indicates we don't have choice. So that would be the second bit of information. Stop shitting yourself. Start replacing should with want. And if it doesn't translate yet, like I should exercise, and if you say, well, I want to exercise, well, that's not true yet. Say, I want to exercise. I'm looking forward to wanting to exercise. Soften it. Stop shitting yourself.
Awesome. JJ Flizanes, ladies and gentlemen, this has been so awesome, my friend. I appreciate you. I know you're very busy. I appreciate you just carving out a little bit of time for myself and my audience. And you're a part of that 1 million pound mission. We're trying to do 1 million pounds of impact. I 100% know that people will listen to this and they will get healthier because of what you have put out there. And that's just going to contribute. And I'm excited to give you updates as we hit our goals with the mission. And everybody out there, I want you to make sure that you are taking action with this. JJ dropped so many great points and tips with this, and it's time to put it into action. So in the next 24 hours, what do you need to do? Maybe it's sitting in silence. Maybe it's doing the meditative practice that you talked about. Maybe it's just breathing a little bit. Maybe it's checking out our website, going through some of our free materials, all right? We've got a lot of resources, but I want you to take action in the next 24 hours so that we can stop shooting ourselves. We can start moving forward. And that, my friends, is how we get out there. That's how we own it every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Hold on just 1 second there. Good looking. I promise you before the show started that I had some more info about the 1 Million Pound Mission Bootcamp, and I am here to deliver that to you. You don't want to miss out. Basically, here's what happened. I have 2 amazing programs I've been running for quite a while now locally with my local clients. The Meltdown Bootcamp. It's my just classic boot camp format, and then a newer product that I call Push 56. And I thought, you know what? I think it'd be really cool to be able to deliver this to anybody, anywhere. So I combined the 2 products. I reformulated them to put them in an online format, and I'm bringing it to you guys starting in July. It looks like we're going to try to do 1 8-week boot camp per quarter. So the July boot camp will be our kickoff. You can get all the dates, all the info. You can get on the wait list to get first dibs on the roster spots because I only have a certain amount of coaches, so we cannot take an unlimited amount of people. So go to millionpoundmission.com, millionpoundmission.com, and get all of the details. You're going to love it. It includes workouts, online workouts, also workouts and prescriptions you can do at your gym, at home, body weight, strength training, whatever. It's all in there. Then it also combines a meal plan. You're going to get to select from our clean eating plan, our paleo plan, our keto plan, or intermittent fasting plan, whatever fits your goals, whatever seems like the best fit for you. That's the program we're going to deliver there. And we have accountability built in. You're going to have an option where you can upgrade and get an accountability coach that touches base with you every single day. We've also got group accountability with a private Facebook group and the Push 56 format. You're going to love. I'm going to have a weekly assignment for you to dig in with that brain food, with that strategic thinking, so we quit messing up with those same danger zones that always trip us up. This is going to be a powerful program. Like I said, roster spots will be limited. Go to millionpoundmission.com. Get on the wait list. It doesn't cost anything to get on the wait list. There's no commitment, but you will get first dibs. You'll have a week prior notice when registration opens up for the 1 Million Pound Mission Bootcamp. Check it out.